Hey, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to give you some of my thoughts on the Will Smith, Chris Rock, and the slap heard around the world incident. And this isn't sensationalistic, it's just sort of some thoughts, sort of tethered in deliberately in some theories that deal with communications and social media and mass media. Here's a great quote by a woman named Humdog, and it's kind of based on the work of Jean Baudrillard and Guy Debord. Quote, cyberspace is a black hole that absorbs energy and personality and then represents it as a spectacle. For those of you who might not know, a spectacle is a visually striking performance or display. So how does this fit in? So just sort of go through this sort of quick little visualization. There's three parts: left, middle, right. So basically the real world that goes up into cyberspace, that's the far left. And in the middle, if you have a phenomenon like a person, a personality, or activity, when that goes online, it becomes a sign or a spectacle. So it becomes some kind of visually striking performance or entity. However, as in the case of the Will Smith Chris Rock incident, it's a really big public phenomenon. It distorts that sign and spectacle even further. So it's kind of like if a phenomenon becomes a sign or spectacle normally when it goes into cyberspace, something like this incident becomes an even more distorted sign, an even more distorted spectacle that takes on a lot of a bigger influence than it might otherwise. This idea goes to the idea of Mark Granovetter's landmark article, The Strength of Weak Ties. And so he talks about the idea of strong ties and weak ties. Strong ties are personal ties between human beings, so like a family, close friends when you physically see each other. Weak ties are kind of more remote ties, such as you think of when you have social media, where you might have a Twitter follower or a Facebook friend. You're connected to them, you have a tie to them, but it's not as strong. And in this particular case, the Will Smith, the Jada Pinkett Smith, that kind of family tie seems to have overwhelmed social media as weak ties. So I think part of his display of aggression in that public setting sort of showed how strong that is, despite the possible negative consequences on social media or broadcast media. So it's kind of just the idea that they both have their characteristics, but in this particular incident, the family tie overwhelmed the social media weak ties. Something else to think about is what are social media driven movements? Which causes lead to social media movements? And going back to the idea of strong and weak ties, Malcolm Gladwell wrote several years ago about the idea of the civil rights movement, and he kind of critiques social media driven movement, saying if you really want to have a social movement like the civil rights movement happen, you want to have strong ties, really good friends, family that know each other. They will help you persist and work through a social media as a social movement that needs a lot of work and a lot of courage. And he contrasts that with social media movements where tweeting out a tweet or Facebook liking, although nice and supportive, can't really do the same types of it can't have the same kind of drive as a real strong tie, people driven, physical world driven movement. And so from all this, there's obviously a violent act on stage. There was a slap. It's not good. It wasn't pleasant. I don't think anyone liked what happened. However, it's violence, and you can make it stand against violence. And it's important not to have violence in society as much as possible. You want to minimize it as much as you can. Given that, you don't know which movements will lead to social media driven movements. Like, I don't think that this anti-violence that might result from this event, where people are aghast and they really dislike it, I don't think it's going to sort of meet the minimum standard to become a social media driven movement. So just another thought. Also, there's the distortional impact of media and social media, and there's this metaphor of social media as a kind of a funhouse mirror. So like when you look in a mirror, it reflects you, but when you look at yourself through a funhouse mirror, it kind of distorts what's being represented into it. So as a result, the funhouse mirror, like social media specifically, it distorts and amplifies or de-amplifies different parts. So you have a phenomenon like the Academy Awards ceremony. It's a bunch of actors and directors and movie makers making work, and they're celebrated and rewarded for it. However, because of that incident with Will Smith and Chris Rock, that one moment becomes hyper amplified, and as a result, things that are around it become de-amplified almost by definition. For example, I had to check afterwards that Will Smith won the Best Actor, and that became amplified because of the incident. However, I had to relook to see who won Best Actress, which is a similar, analogous, like equivalent award, because the incident, the violent incident, so overwhelmed the event that it kind of completely minimized the other part for me. Similarly, when Chris Rock went up on stage, he was about to give I believe, the award for the best documentary, which went to Questlove's Summer of Love, that documentary. However, that whole wonderful rewarding and awarding of an important award became completely de-amplified, minimized because of the incident that preceded it. And as a result, this global celebration of this fantastic documentary, it becomes de-amplified and cheapened, and it's just it wasn't given the due it would have received otherwise. And then finally, what's the idea of, like, how did this incident, what did it do to free speech? Like, think about, what is free speech? Do we have free speech? What are its costs? For example, over time in the educational setting, the Tinker case, which celebrated these youngsters who put black armbands around their arms, it celebrated the idea of symbolic speech, and it allowed that in schools and allowed as students to express themselves in schools. Lenny Bruce, he paid a deep personal cost when there were court cases about free expression where he was talking about he was using profanity in public. There's a pushback, but ultimately that idea prevailed, and you can say, like, in public settings, you can say profanity. The Citizens United case opened up the political landscape for money, and money became a form of free speech. So, keeping away money from politics, people were arguing that it minimized free speech, in this case through money. And finally, there's been a collapsing of different constitutional ideas. For example, there have been arguments that printing 3D guns, the schematics, need to be fostered because these schematics are a form of speech. So it's interesting how speech has changed over time. It can become symbolic, swear words, money, even 3D guns and schematics. And then I would argue that because of what just happened with the Chris Rock Will Smith incident, I think it limited free speech in the aftermath. Say if you're a club comedian viewing risque material, say if there's an audience there, what might have been said beforehand, I could see a lot of comedians not wanting to have a replication of that incident, self-censoring. So I would say at the very least, there's at least a sort of for at least the short term, there's a limiting by free speech in places like comedy clubs, which have been bastions for fostering ideas and social critique when it's done in the best way possible. A lot of it, obviously, for stand-up comedy can be pretty base and not really consequential, but sometimes it deals with very important issues. So those were some ideas about Will Smith, Chris Rock, and the slap heard around the world. Thanks for listening. Take care.